It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to my website, emailrevealer.com, and get a copy of my book, an autographed copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. And even if you don't want to become a PI, you can go in there and, there's like a little bio in the first chapter, a little story of my life that people always like to read about. Also, to all different kind of services in there. If you think your wife or your husband's cheating on you, you give us their email address. We trace it back to online dating websites and catch them cheating online. That's emailrevealer.com. We can locate people and identify people by their email address. All kinds of fun stuff we can do for you. Any kind of trouble you're in, give me a call. Emailrevealer.com. Okay. We got a really exciting show today. We're just talking off the air. It's one of these shows we've been talking off the air for 10 minutes, and you keep saying, okay, let's get this on the air. We got Joe Ferraro. And I met Joe in the Maury Terry Facebook group. It was a secret group that involved, I don't know how I got in there, just because I talk about the topic and I was interested in it. I think Joe DeToma got me in there. But Joe Ferraro is in there because he actually knew some of these Son of Sam cult members when he was a kid in grammar school. So, Joe, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Thank you so much. And Joe's got a New York accent like me, so all the ladies love that, Joe. They're going to love you.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself. Yeah, who is Joe Ferraro?
Well, I'm a retired guy. I went through the 60s in Yonkers. I lived and worked in Yonkers. And, over the years, met a lot of people. And, I became interested in the Son of Sam case after Maury's book came out. And realizing that I knew these guys, and it just made it more intriguing.
So how old are you?
I'm 70.
70 years old. Wow, okay. And Yonkers, for people to know, it's like North Bronx. It's like north of the Bronx, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's almost like the Bronx now. It's a little bit more suburban, but it's getting more crowded every day.
Oh, really? I can imagine, yeah. Because I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in Soundview, number 6 train, between St. Lawrence and St. Lawrence and Soundview Station. Around the number 6 line.
Oh.
Yeah. But I played Little League up North Bronx. It was like right on the verge of Yonkers up there. Okay.
By Van Cortlandt? Or?
Yeah, right. Yeah, like around there. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting because the cult supposedly met there, actually.
Okay. Give us an idea. You read Maury Terry's book, which is called The Ultimate Evil.
Right.
And what that is, it describes about how the Son of Sam murders really wasn't just done by David Berkowitz alone. It was a cult that was an offshoot. It was the children. There was an offshoot of the Process Church of the Final Judgment, which is an international satanic cult, which is now up in Utah running a dog shelter up there.
Yeah, animal shelter.
Right. Incredible.
That's convenient. Yeah.
Considering, right, that they
especially.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they sacrifice dogs.
I'm saying it's convenient to have an animal shelter. Didn't they sacrifice German shepherds or whatever?
Yeah.
So it was part of their gig.
So now, you read the book, and then you realize you knew some of these people from grammar school. Give us an idea.
Well, yeah. I lived across the street from the Carr brothers and the Carr family. And that was the first I heard that they were involved with all this, And what happened is after reading the books and as years went by, meeting other people and talking about it, we come to realize that people we went to high school with, I went to Gorton High School in Yonkers, and across the street was Sacred Heart, which a lot of these members or fringe members, they went to that school. And as the years went by and the information came in, it's just so intriguing. It's just unbelievable, the stuff that, we were hearing, And again, just being in the neighborhood, knowing the players, and hanging around at Untermeyer's, going to Gorton and all that, and hanging out with people from Sacred Heart, it just was amazing. I'm just still amazed by it. It really blows my mind, I got to say.
Well, let's start with this. when you knew the Carr brothers, did you actually play with these guys?
Well, they were to themselves a lot. I was thinking about that before I spoke to you. They really, we'd see them in passing. They'd be in their yard. There was three of them. There was Weed, Carr, and Michael, and John. And we'd go by and they'd be waving as kids. There was another park, Trevor Park, where all the kids used to hang out. And I don't remember them really being there much. Now, Wheat later on, perhaps she went there. I don't know, because she was younger. And she was a girl at that time. That wouldn't interest me. But they seemed to be to themselves a lot. I knew John from first grade and kindergarten, and, we hung out a little bit, but I can't say I know him,
Sure. Now
we ran into each other, in our life, we ran into each other, said hello, said a few words to each other, but, I didn't really know him.
Now, were they kind of like outcasts in the neighborhood, or just antisocial, or just not part of the gang?
Not part of the gang, to themselves. Again, there was three of them. They'd be playing with themselves in the yard, The father, had a reputation of being, in other words, you wouldn't go in their yard. I don't think he was big on that. So I would say the father might have been a little antisocial as far as that went,
Okay, so the father had a reputation, you wouldn't go in his yard. Is that because he would yell at the kids for the ball landing in his yard and stuff like that?
Yes. He didn't want no parts of any of that.
That's interesting.
So it wasn't like it wasn't like the kids would go over there and play. It was, they had a nice sized yard and everything, but it wasn't like people were over there all the time. I don't even remember anybody going over there. Or I don't even remember them, again, at Trevor Park where everybody used to go. It was only a couple of blocks away.
Because, that's interesting because they suspect that there's bodies buried in that yard.
I know. And now the house apparently, I think it went up for foreclosure.
Yeah.
And there's people interested in trying to get permission to go back there and do a little digging.
Yeah, I know. We're working on that. We're working on that ourselves.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, yeah.
We'll get over there with cadaver dogs is the thing. Now, did you ever notice a Volkswagen over there?
I couldn't say for sure, I wasn't really living at home at the time. My family still had the house over there. My cousin said that they saw a Volkswagen in the neighborhood, and it was different people driving it, I think, yeah.
Oh, really? Now, what about at school? Were they friendly at school? It's hard to remember, that far back. Again, kindergarten and first grade. I think back then I just thought of them as regular kids, Okay.
Other than the fact that they were always in their own yard and not playing with everybody else.
Yeah, when you're little, you really don't notice. You know what I mean? You don't notice. Yeah. But what about, were they clean kids, or were they come to school dirty, in same clothes, or not washing their hair? You didn't notice anything like that? Okay.
No, nothing like that. They looked pretty normal, as far as I can remember, And even later on, I ran into them. They were never, different in that respect, anyway. Now, I ran into John once, actually, in Untermeyer's when he was an adult. And we spoke for a few moments, but he was a little aloof, into his own thing, apparently.
And what was he doing at the park? Just walking along?
Excuse me?
What was he doing at the park? Just walking along?
Well, in those days, that was the central meeting place. Back, we're talking 69, 68, 70, it was all hippies.
Right.
And, on the weekend, there might be 400 people in the park.
Oh, really?
That's how many. Yeah, oh, yeah, it was a big, big spot. I mean, it's a beautiful gardens. I mean, for people that don't know, it has all this. They used to have statues back in the day, and it had a mosaic pool. I don't know if you've ever been there, Ed.
No, I haven't. I've only seen pictures. But it's very interesting that all the stones in Untermeyer Park were brought over from England. In order to create that park. Now, did you get a creepy feeling, or just even before you knew anything was going on there?
Oh, absolutely. There was something in that park. I mean, we, again, when I started going on my own up there, I was maybe 14, and they used to have beer parties, from high school. And, there might be 40 or 50 kids up there on what they called the 1,000 Stairs.
Right.
And it was great when you were with everybody, but if you happened to go off a little bit on your own, the park always had a creepy vibe at night to me. I thought so.
Now, that's interesting.
And some strange stuff.
because when I was a kid growing up in Staten Island, the same thing, when we have these beer parties and these pot parties and stuff like that, we would go to the cemetery where they had Vanderbilt's tomb, who's the grandfather of, Anderson Cooper, his grandfather,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
wow.
It was really creepy. And now you can't get in there. They have it all chained off. You can't get in there anymore. But at the time when we were kids, it was like almost like they were inviting us in there. And there was a pathway to get to the roof of the tomb. And up there was pentagrams up there. There was candle wax all over it. People would start fires, keg parties and stuff. It was it was kind of like a place where like the older kids would take these girls up there and get them stoned and like have sex with them and stuff. Like right on top. And I would think at the time, I'd say, this Vanderbilt is such a big, rich name. Why don't they have security around here or some kind of way to keep all this? This is desecrating this guy's tomb. Why aren't they stopping this? And I think now it's because they want that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've heard of Cropsey over there, right?
Yeah. You're right. And that was there's a connection to the Grimson with that as well because he lived in Staten Island.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? See, it's just amazing. The story just goes on and on. That's what got my curiosity. It's like it's just amazing.
Well, in 1980, it was around a little bit earlier than that. Okay, right around 1980 it was. My sister had a friend who they near Bay Terrace. They had built some condos and they knocked down some woods to build these condos. So when they first moved into the condos, they didn't have a covering. They didn't have curtains yet on their windows. And one night in the middle of the night, they saw a bunch of people out in the woods in robes, in a circle, chanting with a fire. They freaked out.
Wow.
Yeah. They called the cops. The cops did find bones, chicken bones and stuff like that in the fire. And the cops says, well, maybe they were having a barbecue. Like laughing.
Yeah, barbecue. Who were they barbecuing?
Yeah, and then when they said no, this was a satanic cult, the cops told them, well, you know what? Satanism is an allowed religion. People are allowed religious freedom. They're allowed to come here in the woods and do whatever they want. Okay.
That is outrageous.
I know, man. I know.
Well, you must have heard, like, I forget where it was, but it was more than one place where they were actually letting satanic rituals happen in some center or something. It was like, right out in front of everybody. Anybody could have went to see it. I forget where that was. It was recently, maybe 9 months ago. And it was a big thing about that. And they said it's the freedom of religion. You have to let them do it.
Yeah. It is a recognized religion. You got that guy, Colonel Aquino, who's a chaplain, was a chaplain in the Army. He was open Satanist, the first satanic chaplain in the Army, all that kind of stuff. So it's
right,
there.
Sure, I've heard. That's outrageous, isn't it?
Now, what about a lot of people say that they heard about dog carcasses and stuff like that being found in the park. Did you ever run across that kind of thing?
I didn't personally. I was living upstate from like 75 to 80. So I wasn't really here for that. But again, that was really a true story. I mean, I think they even documented it, have pictures of it. Next door to the park is St. John's Riverside Hospital. And the nurses there at night would hear, animals like being tortured, and they would see different things from the hospital because the hospital's up high and there's a lot of windows. So I believe they saw fires, maybe torches, whatever. So this was 100% going on. There was actually a room, like the park, before they built the hospital, that was part of the park also. And behind that, it was all overgrown, but there was more structures back there, stone fences. And there was one place where underneath, apparently where you would turn on the waters to all the fountains in that section of the park, it was a big slab going across. It looked like an altar. And that's where they had all the satanic graffiti, the pentagram, the inverted cross, and all that stuff. I think it's in Maury's book. There's pictures of it. And I've been in there, and we looked around. I mean, it was very creepy. And I wouldn't go there at night. Forget that.
Yeah, there's pictures and videos of that area you're talking about. Yeah, and they call it the water tower or something like that, or the water something about water, like
well, they have a big a reflection pool.
Right.
There's this big Roman structure, and in front of it, it's a big mosaic. It's one of the largest handmade mosaic structures in the Northeast, and they let the pool, it's all battered up now. They didn't take care of it, but it's beautiful. And that's where there's a lot of water, and there's fountains in different areas. Actually, they just turned on this place called the Eagle's Nest, and they just turned it back on. And this guy, it was a paradise. When Samuel Untermeyer owned this place, it was a paradise. He had greenhouses. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, another thing I found out, too, is if you look up Samuel Untermeyer in Wikipedia, this is the guy who, founded the Federal Reserve,
Wow, yeah.
This guy was no friend of ours in any way. And there's another sculpture that he donated in Central Park called, Children Playing Around the Fire or something like that, and they're, dancing around.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
It's a bronze, I believe it's made out of.
Yeah, right.
I could be wrong.
Real character. And that, that you could find on Google Images if you Google that.
Oh, yeah. And if you look, there's pictures of the park back in the day, 1900, and it's just fantastic. Now, speaking of Samuel Untermeyer, somebody said, Samuel Untermeyer, son of Sam. And, maybe that was the connection, but I'm sure it's Sam Carr they're talking about. But, that was one of the little theories that came up back in the day, And they said that he might have been involved with something, I don't know, those gardens are designed after Persian gardens and stuff, and they were wondering about him.
Yeah, there's no doubt that there's occult archaeology in there's even a staircase to Saturn or something in there. There's 1,000 steps. Yeah, there's occult galore going on over there. Now they said he did that to the park because there was across the street there was a country club that he couldn't get into because he was Jewish. So he made his land stand out. I think he even opened it up on weekends, one day a week, so people could come and look at it. It's an interesting story. I mean, it's beside the point what we're talking about, but I mean, there is a history. It's interesting. No, you know what? I didn't know about the connection to the Federal Reserve. And the more you hear about Untermeyer bringing these stones over from the UK and all this other bizarre stuff and the architecture in there, there's more to it. There's a reason why they picked that park to do these sacrifices. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely.
Now, one more question too, and we're kind of bouncing around here a little bit. But when you met Sam Carr when he was an adult, because there's a lot of talk about how the son of Sam Cult, these children, the group is called the Children. Used to hang out at Studio 54. Did you see any kind of connection there with that? That
I couldn't say for sure. Apparently, I guess Michael had a connection to the city, but I really don't know much about it. That part of it.
Okay. And what about their connection? Was it North Dakota or South Dakota? Did that ever come up with you guys? How they had this connection over to North Dakota?
Well, the only connection is knowing that he was in the Air Force, and John Carr, that is. And, he kind of made that a home. He had a girlfriend out there, and he had a connection. And, again, there was supposedly cult activity out there also. With that Arliss Perry, and she went to California, and somebody followed, and apparently they killed her, whether she knew too much or whatever the story was. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
She's
I do.
In the church.
Yeah, we have a new witness I spoke to that I interviewed, named McCracken, who was a brand new witness over there in the Arliss Perry. He actually walked into the church while this was going on, and he's identified the guy who he saw there when Arliss Perry was on the altar. And it's not...
wow.
Yeah, I'll send you the show, man. It's in the member section.
Oh, God.
It's pretty...
It goes on forever. Yeah.
It really does. There's so many connections all over the place. Now... What about, there was a lot of talk to, we had Joe DeTome on the show a couple of times, and he talked about how the churches were being broken into.
Yeah.
What did you know about that?
Yeah, there's one guy, I can't mention his name, but he was a really weird guy, and apparently he broke in with this other guy to supply them with hosts during these ceremonies that they had, So it did happen, and it's funny. I mean, this guy supposedly got rumor on the street. This guy that went in there and stole the host, who's dead now, by the way. They were saying that he was actually the Dart Man, who I don't know if you remember that case in Yonkers back. I guess it was around the 80s, maybe 79, something like that. But this guy was going around shooting darts at women through the window at night.
Yeah, it was a Dart Man, they called him. He had a little blowgun.
Yeah, Dart Man.
He had a little blowgun, and he would shoot women on their butts with darts. You know, yeah, and it was, and people say that was connected with the son of Sam too. I've heard that from a couple of different sources, so that's another confirmation there.
You know, apparently there was a lot of fringe people. You know that, you know, they say there was the 22 disciples or whatever.
Right.
But besides that, I believe that, you know, they would try to recruit people, and I think some of the people that Maury mentioned to me that I knew, I think as teenagers they went as curiosity. And then later on, they didn't stick around for the crazy nonsense. You know, I think a lot of that was going on. So there was a lot of fringe people, I think, that knew that this was going on.
Now,
you know,
you said that Maury, because Maury used to use a pseudonym in the group, and some people knew it was him, and some people didn't. Called Trudy Zeke or something like that. Trudy, right? Trudy Zeke.
Yes, that's it.
And
yeah.
So now you said that you used to talk to Maury when you would talk to Maury as Trudy. You knew it was Maury?
No, always through Trudy.
Yeah.
You know, we would write, you know, send messages back and forth, and he would ask questions or show me a picture of a house and did I know where it was. And one time he showed me a picture of a house. It was on Warburton Avenue, and he goes, you know, do you know the address? And right away I wrote back, yeah, that's 120 Warburton. He goes, wow, that's great. How did you know that? I said, well, my family used to live in that house before I was born. So that's how I knew it. And it's just this coincidence, you know, but apparently the people that owned the house after that were involved with this. And the thing is, the people, it wasn't just kids in the park. It was like lawyers, you know, a lot of well-to-do people that were involved with this. You know, there's mansions all along North Broadway, and before they tore them down to make condos and co-ops, there was these mansions that apparently there was a bunch of houses that they used for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, like Roy Radin owned the biggest mansion on the Hamptons, on Long Island over there. And he was up to his ears in all this, you know, and he knew people like Tiny Tim would go and hang out with he was Tiny Tim's manager at one time. The people like Patty Smythe and her boyfriend, who's that guy? Maplethorpe, you know, those kind of characters.
Oh, yeah, Maplethorpe, yeah.
All up to their neck in this kind of stuff.
I believe Berkowitz was there, and actually there was a girl who wound up getting murdered from Yonkers, and she was out there too. So there was a connection to Yonkers also with that, which is another interesting aspect of the story. Like you said, we're bouncing all around here, but we're just talking, and it's still interesting, you know.
Yeah. Now, so what about, now you mentioned too that you went to Gorton High School, and wasn't one of the teachers there involved in this cult as well?
Yes, and I'm dying to find out who it was.
Oh, you don't
because
know.
The school wasn't like a New York City really, really large population. So apparently he was a freshman teacher. And if whoever it was, I would definitely know who, the name. But I couldn't get that from Maury, There was also a doctor that lived on Broadway. I can't remember his name, but that name was out there. I think Maury had mentioned the guy's name. I think he died. But again, doctors, lawyers, teachers, it was people that were supposedly, higher up on the scale, not just teenagers hanging out in the park, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They might have been directing the show a little bit, you know what I mean?
Now, Maury also mentioned some names that you were familiar with, but that you didn't believe that they were involved.
Well, one guy especially I was very close friends with, He mentioned other people that I was friends with, and then some of them I could say, yeah, well, this guy might be, friends, not close friends, but friends. And there's one guy in particular. I mean, I always liked him. I knew his whole family, but he was kind of crazy. And he told me that he was actually molested by one of these guys in the group, And that's how I think he got brought in. I think a lot of people got brought in through this pedophile thing, too.
Now, you said he was kind of crazy. What was he doing that was crazy?
Well, what stories? He was with a guy one night, and they were going to commit suicide in a cemetery, and the other guy did. He didn't. And that was kind of a crazy story. He backed out apparently, and the guy shot at him and then killed himself. He tried to save the guy, but everybody thought he had a hand in killing him, I think.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he was in Vietnam, and he did some crazy things over there. Like, they'd be out in the jungle, and he'd light up a cigarette and put everybody's lives in danger. He was just a wild, crazy guy, And they say he was one of the 22, actually, And I would never say that to him directly, like, oh, you were one of the 22. But apparently, according to Maury and a few other people, he was suspected in doing a few other things, too.
Now, is he still alive today?
And he's still alive, yeah.
Was he involved in drug dealing?
No, I don't think so.
What did he do for a living?
He got high,
What did he do for a living?
Well, he never really worked. He bounced around. He had a couple of jobs. I couldn't tell you what they were. I think he worked for Mount St. Vincent for a while down there. I don't know. But he bounced around, I knew him since he was a kid. And I knew more of his sister. I went to school with his sister. So I never really hung out, like, with him. But we were friends, or friendly, or whatever you want to say, because I knew the whole family. And, he started, one time when we were young, I was older than him. And he showed up, he was in the car, this guy that was older than me. We used to say, what the hell is he doing with him? And this guy was, turned out he was a known pedophile. And apparently he molested this guy, and he's the one that got him involved with a lot of this crazy stuff,
And do you know his name, the pedophile?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say it, though.
Well, no, don't say it. We don't want to get sued. But he's still around, though, right? And did Maury ever...
He's still around.
Yeah. Did Maury ever mention him?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And this other guy told me that... quote unquote, he was Berkowitz's boss.
You know what? We were talking off the air a bit because I talk to other people too, who don't want to come on the air.
Yeah.
And they all say the same thing, that so many of these people are still around. They're still around. They're still around, And that were heavily involved in this. And we were just talking off the air about how much of this material just went to Maury's grave. It just went to Maury's grave with him. And we're never going to get this,
Well, again, somebody has it. Now, what they're going to do with it is the problem. I don't see why, unless they're trying to sit on it and make a lot of money off of it or whatever they're doing. But that's really not fair to say people that, were hurt. Like Carl De Niro, he's in the group, right? He was one of the victims. So if there's information that could, give him a little bit more closure or something, it should be out there for everybody to,
Yeah, and we both heard the same.
Whatever,
we both heard the same rumor that this stuff has been sold, and now the rights have been sold, and the actual material has been sold. No,
that's not right, really.
What did you make of Maury? The way that group was run, and how Maury? What was Maury's motivation for not using his real name in the group?
That's a good question. I guess safety, because he was living in Yonkers, apparently. And another friend of mine actually spoke with him on the phone, I think about 8 months before he passed away. And they were talking for quite some time. And Maury verified some of these names, to my other friend. And, and he was talking to him for quite some time on the phone. They were going to meet and have lunch, and it never came.
Yeah.
To be, but again, just interesting stuff. It's amazing. But again, this pedophile ring apparently it has a lot to do with this. Because there was I believe it was a prostitution ring or something involved with this too, and it just goes on again forever. It's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it seems like that's a big ingredient to all this. Even like with Pizzagate and the Franklin cover-up. And blackmailing powerful people and stuff like that, and they were all involved in raping these little kids. There's a huge ingredient set that gives them their power that they can get away with this, because they did get away with this.
They absolutely, they did. And the theory is like some of these higher ups that were involved with this, if information came across their desk, they might want to squash it.
Well, yeah. Well, you heard we had on Mike Cordella, the NYPD detective, who said that he was told to stop investigating. Did Maury ever talk to you about a couple of things? Let's start with Eitan Pates. Did Maury ever talk to you about Eitan Pates?
No. I'm aware of the case, though, but no.
What about Hedda Nussbaum and little Lisa Steinberg?
Well, the only thing I knew, he was from Yonkers, right? DeHaven Drive, if I'm not mistaken. Joel Steinberg.
Yeah, well, in Hedda Nussbaum's diary, she talks about bringing Lisa Steinberg to the cult to do child pornography.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know much more about it than what you're saying right now. You know.
Okay.
That's crazy, you know, but...
yeah, I know.
There's a whole thing, I mean, this is not off the subject a little bit, with Nicole Kidman's father. I don't know if you read anything about that.
Yeah.
He was a doctor, and he was accused of all this horrendous stuff with this club they have over there, a lot of rich people, and he ran away to Singapore and wound up getting killed or whatever it was, you know?
Yeah, I've had Fiona Barnett, the victim of Nicole Kidman's dad. I've had her. I've had her on my show, and also too, she hosted a show on my network. She was one of my hosts for a while there. She's doing a lot of work still to this day, and I found her story very credible, and we went into a lot of detail. So yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah. Now, what about?
It's like almost like the Hellfire Club a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and even what's his name? Ben Franklin was a member of the Hellfire Club, going way back.
Yeah,
you know. And they found bones under his house, buried under his house.
No kidding! Wow, look at that. See, we don't know.
Google that, man. They found bones of kids, little children, under Ben Franklin's house, and like 100 little kids. Yeah, Google it.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty intense, man. And they try and make all kinds of excuses for him, saying, well, other people live there too, and maybe he was doing experiments on cadavers. You know, they try to make every kind of excuse.
Yeah, sure. Make excuses, yeah.
I know.
I mean, this is crazy. I just, I can't even wrap my head around anybody that was intelligent. Well, I guess it doesn't have anything to do with intelligence getting involved with this. It's just crazy. Just unbelievable. Somebody like Ben Franklin, bones in his backyard. Yeah.
It gets crazier and crazier, the more you look into this stuff. Now, Maury used to talk about Mr. Real Estate, okay? And we talked a little bit off the air. He never told you who Mr. Real Estate was?
No, he never mentioned the name, again, because the son had the same name and was still alive.
But he mentioned something happened at the funeral?
Yeah, at the wake, somebody was saying that they had it bugged, apparently, and they heard one of the suspects saying to another guy, just keep your mouth shut. And that was it. That's the only thing I heard about that. So I guess there are people still interested in this. I'm not sure what year he died. To be honest, I think it was in the 90s. I could be wrong.
No, it was a while ago. I know that for sure. It was a while ago. What did you make of the whole the way the secret Maury Terry group was run, where he would give us a quiz, and give us hints, and we would have to figure it out?
That I don't know how. I mean, how you could figure these things out. I mean, I could never figure it out what he was trying to say.
Yeah, but what was the purpose, because everyone in there was vetted, that they really spent a lot of time vetting everybody that was a member. Why not just share the information so people could work on it? Yeah, you would think. I'm not sure. Maybe he was doing this quiz he figured if somebody had information that they would feed into that or something. I don't know. I mean, I made it clear on that group, because, I said, look, I knew these people and everything, but I was never involved in this stuff. Right.
I mean, I happened to be in the neighborhood. I happened to go to the high school, and I happened to hang around in Untermeyer Park, So, I mean, I never had any information or any, evidence or none of that shit, I'm just saying, But it's just, again, very interesting, and it's in my backyard, and I just can't help but be interested in it.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
I've never been part of an online discussion group the way that one was run. With other people, it's dedicated to a guy who's part of the group. He's obviously reading everything there, and he's posting through a fake name and also through a spokesperson, this gentleman who claimed he was an FBI agent, which was totally fake.
Yeah.
The whole thing was so bizarre.
That was strange.
Yeah.
But there there was other guys that had aliases there too. I think, you know.
Oh, really? And who do you think they were?
Well, one guy came to find out who he was. He was a nice guy, it turned out. But what happened to me, all of a sudden I started getting messages from a guy called Harvey Carr.
Oh, really?
I'm saying, and I thought, you know, who the hell is it? No, maybe this is somebody related to John and Michael or something, you know. And he, you know, I started talking, you know, because my curiosity, of course, you know, went through the roof. And, you know, he would keep feeding me this information or ask me questions, and he knew all the people I knew, and it was interesting. Then I found out who it was, and I realized, you know, he's just the same thing. Happened in his backyard. He was very interested in all this stuff. But again, another alias. You know, and I think there's a few of them in there that had these aliases. You know, and they said they screened whoever came into the group, and that hopefully so, because, you know, God knows, you know, who you're speaking to.
Yeah, that was really bizarre. The whole thing was very bizarre. And also, too, you know, Maury never once answered an email from me. I got a hold of his email address because I was part of a group of a whole bunch of people, because I interviewed Russ Dizdar and Dale Griffiths and, you know, William Ramsey, and we were all part of an email loop, you know, and I saw Maury Terry's email in there one day. I said, ooh, I got him. You know, I located him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he never once would answer me. I used to invite him on the show. He listened to all my shows. He talked about it. Did he ever talk to you about my show?
Yeah. Well, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, he mentioned different things. Sure, absolutely. I think he was very ill at the end, though.
Yeah, I know.
And that's what I'm thinking, you know, so that could be a big part of it also.
Yeah, I know that.
You know, because I was surprised when he died. I mean, I knew he wasn't feeling well, but I wasn't ready to hear that he died, though. That caught me by surprise, you know.
Yeah. He was really in bad shape there toward the end. So I knew he wouldn't be able to do a live interview, but still, off the record, we could have shared information, you know, because people are sending me stuff all the time. It was just...
Yeah, absolutely.
What did he say to you about the show? Did he say anything, even if it's bad? I don't care.
No, he didn't say anything bad. He just said certain shows, I don't remember which one, he said, you know, check it out. This is interesting. You know, this information is correct or something. And, you know, something to that effect.
Yeah,
it was nothing negative. He never said anything negative.
Yeah, they were just the whole thing was just, and people would contact me, saying, you know, think I knew Maury, saying, "Well, get me in touch with Maury," and I'd send him the information, and then I'd have to go through that other guy, you know, Charles.
Right.
It was just insanity, you know, just.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you why. I mean, now my friend got to speak to him on the phone for like an hour and a half or whatever it was, you know, but they knew each other again in high school because Maury went to Sacred Heart also.
Right.
And so, you know, but he got through. And but then again, when they said they were going to have lunch, you know, Maury never, you know, made a date with that, you know. So, but he was always interested in I mean, he never stopped, you know, investigating or whatever with this case. I mean, this was, I guess, his life, you know.
Yeah. And did he ever talk to you about the OJ case?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Oh boy. So, I know, man. Listen, it's when you get involved in this stuff, it's just such a you don't know who to trust. It's all craziness, double agents all over the place.
Well,
it's just, and it's dangerous stuff too. It's dangerous ground because even people that were still, you know, if you read Maury's book, people he were talking to were getting murdered while he was writing the book. So it's not like the guys. You know.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew some of the people that were involved with the group. I forget that girl. You know, they came up and shot her in the face in Elmsford or whatever. You know, I thought people that they thought would, you know, rat them out that were in the group themselves.
Yeah,
I think they eliminated. Well, the Carr brothers, to put it that way. You know, that's a good example right there. I mean, you know, John. They said at first it was suicide, but then you know, they determined that it wasn't. I think there was even 666 scratched in his blood or something like that.
It was like on a baseboard, a baseboard next to him in blood.
Yeah, this lettering is something there. You know, I mean, the story's scary. I mean, again, you know, you would have to be careful if you had information. You know, I think you'd have to be on your toes and watch what you said. You know,
now
because you know,
if you were to contact Carr, because she's still alive and she talks about this. She's very hostile about these allegations and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Now, if you were to
this guy who...
Go
ahead.
If you were to contact her, would she remember you?
Well, I did. Well, I did actually once. Going back a couple of years ago, just for the hell of it, I just wrote. I just asked her if she remembered me, but she remembered my family. Again, I was older than her,
right?
But she remembered my family. I think she remembered a cousin because my grandfather had a barber shop, and right next to it, my uncle had a beauty parlor, and that was right across the street from her house. So she mentioned that, and she mentioned again my cousin, I think. And so she was friendly, and I didn't dare say anything about the case or anything like that. But this other guy that was Harvey Carr talked to her all the time.
And what was she saying?
He was trying to get an interview. He was trying to get an interview with her or something,
Yeah, I'd love to get an interview with her.
Yeah, I don't think she would. Somebody said she might be ill also. I figure she must be 67, something around that neck of the woods.
Yeah. Now, do you drive by their house? Do you still see their house? You're close enough to get by there?
I never go there anymore. I can't remember the last time I went by. A couple of years ago. I was just passing through. I took a look. But again, I heard it was foreclosure. Nobody's living there. And that's interesting. I mean, if somebody could get a whatever they would need to go in there and start digging around, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, cadaver
because
dogs.
Their backyard is bordering the aqueduct. That runs all the way up past Untermeyer's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, they used to say there was houses that had tunnels that could get to it. I don't know if that was true or not, but yeah, it goes all the way up to the back of the park, and that's where they had the rituals over there.
Did Maury ever confirm anything about tunnels?
Yeah, he did mention that he had heard that there were, even in the park, I believe, and I never knew where it was or anything, but they say there's a tunnel in the park somewhere underneath. So that's interesting in itself. Somebody said they used to play there when they were kids or something. I don't know, but they say there's a tunnel in the park.
Yeah, because at Willowbrook Hospital on Staten Island, there were tunnels under there. There were real tunnels that were built there when they built the hospital, and there was all kind of tunneling underneath there. We talked about Cropsey before. I guess it was off the air. We were talking about Cropsey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those sanatoriums or whatever, they had the tunnels underneath. Places where there would be tuberculosis or whatever, they had the tunnels, to get rid of the people that passed. And very spooky under there. I wouldn't go there.
Yeah.
They say people are living there. Actually, with the Cropsey thing, it was ex-mental patients that went back after they closed the institution, and they were back there living. That's what I heard, anyway.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on there now, if they still have homeless people living there now. Because I know they moved the college over there. Staten Island College moved to that building for a while. So who knows?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, man. It's just crazy stuff.
It's crazy.
It's crazy
it
stuff.
Is.
Yeah.
Well, over there they had all these people that were missing also with the Cropsey thing. Kids were missing, and they'd find these homeless camps where they find you could obviously somebody was living there and stuff. And there was one kid I remember that disappeared. He looked like Mick Jagger, but he was mentally challenged. He was slow or whatever it was, and he disappeared like 1, 2, 3 in that neighborhood. And I remember they were searching for him in that area, and it was a woman that dedicated herself unofficially. I think her and a few other parents were trying to find this kid over there.
Yeah, there's a really good documentary about the Cropsey case on Staten Island, and there was a lot of bizarre stuff in that, and a lot of little anecdotal stories too. That these people in a project talk about a bus that came one time and took a bunch of kids to the airport just for no reason.
Wow.
I know.
I don't know. It just goes on.
Yeah, just the other day I saw a letter from Ted Gunderson where he talked about having information about 100 kids on an airplane landing at in Denver Airport, and these different flights where hundreds of kids unaccompanied, with no one, unaccompanied
really?
kids. Yeah, and he said he was reporting it to the FBI. No one was taking reports from him. So, but with him, who knows,
Well, they say a lot of the missing children in the United States, probably everywhere, is a good portion of it goes to this cult business or this pedophile stuff,
Yeah, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of kids missing from the Department of Social Services in Florida alone. There's no record of these kids. Wow. It's just off the record. Yeah, it really is distressing.
It's very scary. Yeah.
Did Maury ever talk to you? And when he was using the name Trudy Zeke, did he ever talk to you about Ted Gunderson?
Who? I'm sorry.
Ted Gunderson, the former FBI agent who was
No.
No, he didn't mention it too.
No.
What about did Maury?
No, he didn't mention.
Yeah, because that was another weird thing too. Because whenever I would bring up because I was in touch with Dr. Jeffrey McDonald's wife, his current wife now, and whenever I would bring up that case, the first thing everybody would jump down my throat about was Ted Gunderson's investigation of the case. Did he ever? Yeah, did he ever talk to you about Jeffrey McDonald?
No, not really. No.
Okay.
I know who he is. Vaguely,
Oh, boy. Okay, so let's think. You think there's anything that I've forgotten to ask you?
Geez, I don't know.
I know.
It's so much, my head's spinning, because we did bounce around a lot, but, it's still interesting, I don't know. The park, you asked if it was spooky, or it definitely was and is. And, my information is like, after Untermeyer, passed away, he gave the land to the city to take care of as a park for the people that lived in Yonkers, and it was left abandoned for years, and that's when this Druid group, I guess, started up there.
Right.
And then later on that became the process. So this is way before Berkowitz and everything. I remember as a kid, they found 2 bodies surgically cut up. And kids were finding body parts like close to Untermeyer's on the aqueduct, up by the Graham School. And they never solved that case, by the way. And it was all in that Untermeyer, Greystone train station. They were finding body parts and stuff. And this is going on. I mean, I was, 11 years old when this happened or whatever it was. So the park has always been really mysterious, like you said, spooky a little bit. It's a beautiful place. And in the daytime, you wouldn't even think of these things, But
let me ask a question.
The history of it.
Even with all that stuff going on, right? They're finding body parts and stuff like that. Even with all that stuff going on, your parents still let you go out and play by yourself, right?
Well, they warned you. They used to tell us, don't open up the suitcase if you find it.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine?
What a different world. Yeah, it was such a different world, man. They're finding body parts. God. Yeah, go out and play. Don't worry, but stay away from those body parts.
Yes. Yeah. But again, they would tell us literally, don't open. If you see a suitcase, don't open it, because some kid found a head or whatever it was back in those days. It was crazy.
It was such a different world.
But it's just the idea, that it progressed from this Druid thing.
Yeah.
And I forget who was saying because of, I don't know, the oak trees or some significance about the layout or where it was, or I don't know if it was on a ley line, or I don't know exactly what it is with the park, but there were reasons that they went to that specific spot. One of them because it was abandoned, and it was so full of trees back in those days, you could hide almost anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking way, in the 40s and 50s, forget about it. And then, it's just very interesting. What it progressed into. They still have a building at the bottom of these 1,000 stairs, and it was the servants' quarters. And that's still standing. Why? I think they're even fixing it up. And I think in that building, a lot of stuff happened. And with kids or whatever, And there's a little tunnel that's right adjacent to it that I won't even go in there. I don't know. It's a very spooky vibe in there,
So you wouldn't go in there as a kid. As a kid, you wouldn't go in there.
No, I wouldn't go in there.
Right. Okay.
I really wouldn't. There's something about it. You could just feel it. There's something not right about that area. And why they're fixing this place up, that building, I figured they would tear it down. But if you're ever in the neighborhood, you should definitely go check the park out. They've done a lot of work. It's not like it used to be, but you can get an idea.
Well, that's a whole nother thing too, because there was a planned trip down there with a bunch of people, Russ Dizdar and Maury Terry, and I was invited to go to that. But even with all of that, yeah, and even all that, it never came together. But even with that, Maury wouldn't talk to me.
That's unbelievable. I can't get over that. Yeah. I mean, maybe he never showed up himself. I don't know.
No, yeah, the whole thing fell apart. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Because I was even talking to some people about filming, and maybe selling a documentary. But yeah, the whole thing just fell apart. Just so bizarre.
Wow, it's a shame. Because you certainly have enough material, even, I mean, obviously can't mention people's names or, suspects, whoever like that. But I mean, just the story itself, if it was told in the right way, is amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing.
And it's amazing, too, that they're still whitewashing this story with the Spike Lee. Spike Lee, he did that stupid movie with the dog.
Oh, that dopey thing, yeah.
And Franco did that crap thing with the, it's a dead end as well, just a whitewash.
Yeah. Well, the Franco thing, I mean, I don't think, what's he going to do with that? I don't think anybody would want to even see it.
Yeah.
Terrible. It's the worst,
All right, we're down to about 10 minutes. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left, man. What do you want to leave us with?
I don't know. What can you say? I mean, there's more information out there. I mean, there's more things that could be discovered. It's just, it'd be nice if the information that Maury left would come out or were given to the proper people that could investigate it and finally come to a conclusion of what it's all about. If there is a conclusion to it.
Especially when we got this guy, Mike Cordella, who did investigate this. If he could have access to that material, that would be a gold mine. I know they're not going to let me look at it because everybody hates me, but, if we could put that aside, and just because, and I saw this coming. I used to say to people, this is going to go to his grave with him, man, if we don't get this out there. And other people, too, said the same thing. Yeah. This guy I was talking to, he goes, if we don't hurry up and get this together, he's going to take it with him. But the thing is, he didn't take it with him. These people have this stuff. Yeah. And again, if they're waiting to make millions of dollars on this, I don't think that's going to necessarily happen. But I mean, to get to the bottom of it for the people that were hurt by this, I think is important. Well, maybe they'll listen to this. Post a link in the chat room. It works out there. Bygones be bygones. Let's work on this together and get this information out there. Joe Ferraro, thank you so much, man. Okay, if you got any new information, anything like that you want to share, let us know, and we'll put you right on the air. Okay, man?
All right, pal. It was good talking to you.
You too.